like 3, 2, 1 kind of thing. Yeah, I have to make sure I can actually go mute it. Okay, we are starting.
Oh shit, I should mute it too.
Yeah. I hate the fact that I have to wait for this. Every stream starts out with me bitching about waiting just to mute the stream.
I just mute the site.
It's annoying. Anyway, we are now live. 3 watching already now? We got people watching. That's kind of crazy. Cool.
Holy shit! Whoa, people are watching.
Yeah, I know. That's weird.
Two of those are us. To be
Probably.
totally fair.
Well, no, because it's not supposed to show me. So I don't know. Anyway, I just shrunk the map on accident. I just tried to hang out with Athena here before I go to work and maybe do some work on her map.
Mippity mappity.
Definitely need to add some more detail. And I want to add some more.
Mippity moppity. Your map is now my property.
Over here. Let's do that, because we were talking about that before. You're talking about me putting something over there, but I'm like, no, that's not part of your terrain. I'm just going to do mountains to the coastline, which is kind of normal for mountains to do.
It's kind of like what I did with my thingy.
Oh, that's...
I did a map today, trying to be just like Finn. It didn't turn out as well.
What did I use? I thought I used 10. That's too thick. Maybe I did use a 10. Yeah, I guess that is it.
See, Jay in our server is like, oh, that's such a sweet description. Like, I know, right? That's what I said.
Oh, that's such a sweet description. Yeah. I use best friend in the description, and like everyone's like, oh, that is so sweet. You know, like,
it's more the bringing to life thing as well. It's just like, oh. Oof, that's a big circle. Looks like I'm making a big boy.
No, I can't do it that way. Let's try.
Ooh, that was an ugly cheekbone. Oh no! Oh well, I guess I'm not making a big boy.
Do it over here.
So it's in 11 hours. No, it's going on right now. No, it's going on right now.
Okay, now I believe you what 6 for the 6 was the downslope, so we'll go back to that. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the races of your world? Go down from the front, the good to the bad. Start with the good.
Oh zoinks! I should pull out my my book that has all the things in it.
Might help, yeah.
Yeah, it might. This is my D&D book, but obviously I had stuff like this planned before I met Finn. But I have the D&D book now, so. Oh yeah, Avia Terra. We need to come back to that. That was like the map that we printed out, and we never actually used it.
Yeah, but my map skills has gotten so much better lately. I have to go back.
Oh, it's still really cool looking, you know. It's like a cool little cartoony style map. You know, one of the continents actually kind of looks like Africa. Just realized.
Oh, really?
New game. King Oak Hollow. More information on worldanvil.com. Oh yeah, this must be it then, because I didn't use World Anvil for anything else. So this is the where are they? I know I have. Oh, okay. Let me just become professional. Oh, that was you. I got a notification from you, so it's your fault, not mine, that I'm being unprofessional with my phone notifications on. All races listed in earlier pages. Alright, well, let's go all the way back to the start of the book then, shall we?
Now let's...
Sorry guys, just a moment.
That's not too bad. Here, I'll send it to
you. Ah, here we go. The races. So, I don't know if these are in any particular order. But, you know, I'll just go from the
You're
top
supposed to go from the good
down.
guy to the bad. Come on, start with the lightest elves to the dark elves.
Well, there is literally a race called the Light Elves.
I know.
So they live basically, they can see in the light really well, but as soon as but they're kind of like humans. You put them in the dark and they're basically blind, but you put them in the light and they can see further than most humans can in the light. They've got like, Hawkeye, that one guy, his vision basically but better
Yeah.
because his is just precision, whereas theirs is just long sight. Whatever. They're long sighted in the light, but can't see to save their goddamn lives in the dark. So for D&D related stuff, they get a +2 wisdom, a -2 strength, a +1 intelligence, and a -1 dexterity. Low light blindness is what it says. Um,
You don't have to go into the D&D stats stuff that we got for them. Just
I'm
give
actually looking into this stuff and I'm like, what does this even say?
give us the I just really want the lore. Give us like
The lore? Okay, well, the Light Elves are basically your classic cleric, your old paladin, depending on. They do go by gender, because, religion. Just had to make a subtle jab there, don't worry about it. So they were basically brought into the world by the gods. They didn't exist until the gods basically said, holy crap, these guys are all degenerates. Let's put a couple of our people in there to kind of sort them out. And obviously it worked for the most part. And so, the whole... I never really got to get into them all that much in my thing, but I did have a lore written down, and I'm going to try and recite it from memory. Hooray! So they were formed from 3 materials. It was clay, a certain kind of leaf, and a certain kind of rose petal. And they formed all of these into the shape of an elf, and put it on the earth to save the world from darkness, aka, the dark elves and the drow elves, and the frost elves for a little bit. But, that was more coming to a start when this all happened. And they were put there to deter evil because evil was growing so rigidly or rapidly, whatever, either one, in the whole world, not just the thing that you're drawing now, but the entire world. But obviously, this is the only world they know. And basically, they are your religious clerics. They're here to save the world through religion, but obviously, it doesn't work for everyone. They're always like, your lawful goody two-shoes, pray every night. They're like the Ned Flanders of of the Elven kingdom.
oh jeez.
And then we've kind of got like a group of 4 more neutral, like they can be either way. So I'm just gonna go in order from the things. Then you got the desert elves. As the name suggests, they live in the desert. They are basically encumbered as soon as they hit a temperature of doesn't say on here. I know it says in our thing, but it doesn't say on here. But I believe it was anything under like 10 degrees Celsius, because I don't know Fahrenheit. As soon as they get anywhere under there, they are completely encumbered. They are like, kind of like we would be if we were walking through a desert. They're like sweating, but the opposite of sweating because they're freezing, and they're like trying to walk, and they're like all slow. Yeah, encumbered. And
Yeah.
they are basically the protectors of the desert. They protect desert temples. They're basically an ancient race of elves that were around during kind of what we would consider to be the pharaoh times, even though this is all like well before that. But what we would consider to be like, it's the equivalent, the equivalent of when pharaohs and everything ruled Egypt and all that. That's kind of what they are.
Yeah.
And so they are actually, in my little world, they were the ones that created the Sphinx, the building itself, the sculpture itself, not the myth. But they built it to deter the frost elves from going any further into the desert, because at the time frost elves versus desert elves kind of a thing. And yeah, so that whole thing happened. And they are known to be very quiet and reserved. but very wise. So to be given advice from a desert elf is supposed to be this high honor, you know. And then you've got the wood elves. Everyone knows what a wood elf is. Moving on. They're the same as any other wood elf. They're just there.
Your basic elves, yeah.
Then you've got the loch elves, Loch, not, you know, the kind that you need a key. And they are basically your aquatic elves. They live in the water. They are your nymphs, your, oh, what are they called? The water horse ones. You know what I mean.
Kelpie.
Kelpies! Thank you. Those are the amounts. They are so cool. I always liked the loch elves, but I never got to use them. But I did plan to use them in the story that I'm writing now, seeing as you noticed, like, they've just come out from a drought and they're getting all this rain. Obviously, it was kind of the perfect setup to include the loch elves. Similar to the desert elves, they are protectors of the ocean and ocean temples. You know, the whole Atlantis thing, totally real. But minuscule because they are tiny. And they can take the form of a fish, a mermaid, or just a regular elf with gills and webbed fingers and feet, you know, depending on all that jazz. Kelpies are supposed to be the spirits of the dead that moved on but were resurrected, and they formed, you know, their mouths. They don't have as much lore as half of the others. And then you've got the dark elves, which are not actually bad guys, as though although their name certainly sounds that way. Dark elves are more neutral, generally lawful. They will serve anyone who fits their interest, and their only interest is basically protection, as they are hunted by the drow elves. They are the drow elves' main source of nutrients. So, you know, the drow elves will hunt them down, kill them, and eat them. They live in the Darklands with the drow elves, which makes them a prime target, considering they can't see outside of the dark at all. They're like the light elves. The light elves get into low light and they can't see for shit. You get the dark elves into low light, again, they can't see anything. They need darkness. And so living in the Darklands is the only place they can be unless they want to go blind their whole lives, which obviously most of them don't. Basically, they are also traveling outside the Darklands for them anyway is not only dangerous because they can't see, but also because people outside the Darklands commonly mistake them for drow elves because they are very, very, very similar in appearance, although they are not the same. Like, there's very subtle differences, like their eye color, like the way their ears turn. Dark elves tilt up, drow elves tilt down with their ears. And other very subtle differences. That is why they are often confused with drow elves, unless they are, you know, being talked to by a dark or a drow. They have their own language called dark, which I will go through later. And yeah, that's kind of their thing. Then you've got, we'll end with the worst one, so we'll go drow elves now. Like I said earlier, they hunt and kill the dark elves to eat them, which is gross. They can travel outside the Darklands, although they do struggle to see in bright light, but it's not really as much of a problem as most things. They are extremely hated because they practice necromancy, and obviously, you know, in most places, the death magic is probably not the thing you want to be messing with. So yeah. They are commonly known to, like, resurrect fallen warriors so that they can raise them to be stronger as dead, so that their warriors are basically immortal, and all that other garbage. So they are very much not liked, which is why generally they also will not go outside the Darklands. They can see almost fine outside, and, you know, they would probably rather eat something better than dark elves. But because of their practices, and like I said earlier, even the dark elves get mistaken for them, drow elves are hunted outside of the Darklands. So as soon as they step foot outside, they're basically in danger of being hunted by bounty hunters. Bounty hunters, basically, they go through, they look for, we know what a bounty hunter is, I'm not explaining that. They will go through and they will find a drow elf, and they will turn it in for over 100,000 gold, because obviously it's very, very rare to get them outside the Darklands. And if you can, it's no small feat. because they are very, very strong. As I explained in the last thing, the Frost Elves tried to invade the Elven Kingdom, and by doing that, it wouldn't make sense for the island to be up top because they would have to go through the Darklands where the Dark and Drow Elves were. Drow Elves are incredibly strong, physically, and some more magically inclined, as with most races, but more so physically. And so, while they've got necromancy up their sleeve, they've also got the physical strength and so on and so forth. So the bounty hunters going in and actually risking their lives to catch them is why they get 100,000 gold, which is kind of Steve Jobs level of money, you know. But basically, they're just a bunch of assholes. And then there are the Frost Elves, who are the worst of the worst. Their whole thing is they are, because of the crimes that they are prone to commit, they are so bad. They are almost always like anywhere between lawful neutral to chaotic evil. They have been sentenced to, like, the Darklands, at least they get to live on the same continent as everyone else. These guys have to be shoved off onto an island, like, and basically quarantined, kept watched by every kind of neutral elf to make sure that they don't come in and screw everything up, because they tried to invade the Elven Kingdom, and there was this big war, and they spread this kind of virus called frostbite, and the frostbite is kind of like not like frostbite, it's kind of imagine Ebola, but like 10 times worse. So it's not a pleasant disease, and at the time it wasn't really curable. And it is now, but only after, I think it was like a month after getting it. But the diseases were so hard to, the symptoms were so hard to recognize that almost no one would be diagnosed in time to be cured, and it would turn them into an almost zombie-like state until they started kind of rotting alive, or they would like kill themselves. Like, there were a bunch of like ways that they would end up dying, and death was inevitable. And so they were very spooked by that, because all they would have to do is bite you. It's kind of like a zombie virus. And then they also have very powerful ice magic, as well as being incredibly quick and sorry, words aren't coming to my head at the moment. They're very quick, they're very witty, you know, all that other crap. But most of all, they are very deceptive, and have been known to kind of like changelings disguise themselves as a normal elf and so on and so forth in order to, you know, get through to getting what they want, which is never good. So the only reason they were able to be beat was because of one specific elf who falls outside of all of these specific races. And of course, since it's all a secret, I can't say exactly what she is, but it's Calithe, the Enchantress, and she has beauty so powerful that nobody could ever resist her, basically. And the only reason they ever won that war was because of her. And she, you know, I mean, she would trick these people into like falling for her and then stab them in the face. Like, she was, she's a cool character. I like her. She's just like China Sorrows, but better because she's mine.
Doesn't it all sound like something like a 13-year-old girl would think up as a main character?
No, well, she's not a main character though. She's the side character. She's the main character's sister.
You know what I mean, though. Like,
no, she's a cool character, but she's basically why they won the whole war. And then, you know, she kind of went aside and she stopped her ways of battle. You know, gave up those practices and retired to a village, and you know, made some friends, got her own library, and then, you know, we kind of start off going to there where goblins are attacking and so on. So like desert elves, frost elves are encumbered, but in hot weather, and so obviously they don't want to go into the desert, and so etc. etc. The reason they had such an easy time getting into the Elven Kingdom was because they're climbing mountains that are so bitterly cold that most people definitely could not climb them, but they are frost elves, they're fine. they like it. They run faster. So, you know, easier
Yeah.
time than if they had gone through anywhere else.
Let's put this
And then there are two subspecies that I never really worked out fully, other than the main character's love interest was one, is the pixies and fairies. Fairies female, pixies male. Uh, they're the same thing, but they have different names, basically. And less mischievous, as in D&D. But one of the main guys, Quinn, is a prince, I guess you could say, of the Pixies, and the main character and him had like a special bond, and then eventually he's gonna die, but that's fine. Brutally, might I add. Not that that's a bad thing. And then let's see, what else can I talk about? Yeah, so the game itself is
well, it wasn't originally even a game. It was supposed to be just a story.
Oh yeah, I'm going to my notes. So the game itself is set in 1721, but the book was actually set significantly earlier, but I didn't really remember what the date was, so I just went with 1721. And this is during the Great Elven War, where King Vyson and Queen Sylphine, obviously the main character's parents, are still alive. Frost elves speak Frost, they have their own language. Dark elves and drow speak Dark. All races, blah 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 blah. Main bad guy. Yep, can't give that away. The receiver note. Yep. Okay, that's all game stuff. But yeah, that's all the races. You asked me to describe the races, and I did that for you.
Cool.
Yeah. I rambled a little bit, but it's okay.
That's perfectly fine. You were like just filling space, telling you about the world while I was drawing it. That's cool. Let's see here. So now, are you ever going to run this again? Now that I'm making you a map, are we get to play again?
I do want to, but I can't guarantee that I'll be able to make myself do it. I might do it while I'm in the US. Run like a nice one shot.
No, I want an awesome campaign. Play the whole world.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
That looks like a whole mountain, not a sand dune. Are you even watching what's going on with your world?
I am. I'm waiting for the whole mountain, not a sand dune part.
So that kind of...
That's a sand dune.
I think I'm
It's
gonna...
the mountain.
Just the way that I drew it looked more like a mountain than it did a sand dune, that's all. So I'm gonna kind of... give that more of a curve out there.
I might have just seen it, and it was very anticlimactic. I thought you drew like a giant mountain.
No, it's just the way it was shaped was like really odd.
Damn, I'm disappointed.
I erase this, because now there's supposed to be a lake in here, and that would be a 10. How to draw a lake. This is just supposed to be kind of like a little...
I'm going to go into my world anvil thing so that I can talk about some of the stuff I have on there. It's not much at all. View. No, I don't want to just view her. Arg! Go back. How do I go to world?
There's a nice one. Just like a
view. There it is. I found it. The Elven Kingdom. The Elven Kingdom is made up of several regions filled with cities, towns, and villages. It is filled with many magical beings such as elves, pixies, fairies, goblins, and many others. It is ruled over by King Cynthia Englesworth, a beautiful young elf who resides in the capital of the kingdom, King Oak Hollow, and the giant oak tree in the very center of the city. To the north live frost elves, a race of inherently evil elves who practice dark magic and whose primary goal is to overcome the queen and the elven kingdom itself. However, their power is limited as they need to pour their magic into a single item in order to use it. That's right, that's something I forgot. Or else it'll inevitably kill them. So it's the whole situation where they have to kind of put their power into the ring, like in Skullduggery Pleasant. The necromancers put their power into the ring so that they can use it. But if they do try to use it in their, say, late teens, without putting all their power into one item, they will basically explode. More like disintegrate, really. It depends on, the level of power they're trying to use. Goblins are not an inherently evil race, but the rebellious goblins, though rare, are a nuisance to the other Fae living in the kingdom, with raids and bands of criminal behaviour now beginning to wash over the regions. The reputation of the goblin race is at stake as they try to bargain with and persuade the rebels to stop. They are unsuccessful in this plight, however, and several of the races have become upset with them and often prejudiced as well. However, the rebels and the rest of the goblins have had to reconsider their relationship as a new wave of goblin raids completely unrelated to the rebels has begun, this time involving the murder of many innocent citizens. Because in my little world, goblins typically don't engage in murder. They go in, they try to find women to either take or rape. Classic D&D stuff, I guess. And then take all their money and all their gems and all their valuables. But at the moment, they're burning down houses and they're like jumping people to rip them to shreds, and not even to like eat them, just to rip them to shreds and then move on. And it's very, very, very brutal. King Oak Hollow is the capital of the Elven Kingdom. King Oak Hollow is the central capital of the Elven Kingdom. It holds a massive oak tree, which many of the Elven citizens have made their homes in. It is a large city with a town hall, a church, a town square, a market, and a residential area, not including the tree, and is home to the Queen of the Kingdom herself. Geography. King Oak is based in a massive forest full of oak trees, spruce trees, I did mention those, birch trees, and several others. It is a generally flat terrain with minor bumps due to fallen tree branches and leaves. However, in some areas, the forest does experience some minor hills. There are several clearings in this forest, the biggest of which is where the king oak tree is in the middle of and the city around it. The forest is large and dense, but only holds one city, being the capital, and a small village about 10 hours in a carriage away. Typically, the view from the king oak is beautiful as the sun reflects off the dew and the leaves, and even in the drought, the sun is blocked out by the massive, or at least massive to the Fae, leaves, creating a beautiful cascade of light. The rain brings its beauty as well with the dim light from the sky playing on the raindrops and the droplets on the leaves and acorns hanging from the trees. There are several roads leading out of King Oak, one leading further into the forest to the village, and the others leading to towns outside the forest. There are dirt paths made naturally from years of travellers making their course down them. The flora and fauna. Flora, there are many big trees in the area and many kinds of wildflowers, some herbs that are used for medicine, and many fruits and vegetables. And fauna, it is mostly Fae around here, but sometimes you will find deer and other wildlife, although these are much too big for the Fae to hunt, so they would have turned to hunting small rodents and birds. They also, somehow, have mini cows, because why not? I think that came as like a little joke, and then I was like, yep, I'm putting mini cows into the story.
You should probably explain to people about the size of scale of things, because
I think I've said that multiple times. They are tiny. They are very, very small. They are basically the size of, let me get my ruler and I can basically get an exact size thing. So their mini cows would be about, yeah. So, calculating. My estimate is that they are probably about 5 centimeters tall. They're very, very, very small.
yeah, this is like a miniature world.
They're not quite as small as Tinkerbell. They are very small, but just like probably a centimeter or two taller than Tinkerbell's whole race of fairies. Their natural resources are small birds, small rodents like squirrels, etc., berries and other fruit, veggies and wheat, and mini cows. Because why not? Why wouldn't you want mini cows,
Yeah, I don't know why not. Jeez.
Cynthia Inglesworth, our protagonist. Queen Cynthia Inglesworth, aka Symph, is a young woman with blue hair, blue eyes, and pale tinted blue skin. She also happens to be the Queen of the Elven Kingdom and resides in King Oak Hollow. She is the sister of the Prince Vespin and the former Princess Calithe. She is a diligent leader and tough-ranged fighter. She prefers dreary cold weather to heat and will often spend her rainy days outside watching the rain for hours. Her physical description, general physical condition is very fit and agile, thin yet curvy, blue skin, eyes and hair, no illnesses or afflictions or negatively impactful abnormalities. Her body features are light blue skin, dark blue hair, and dark blue eyes. Identifying characteristics are the golden crown between her hair braid, and her head. Her physical quirks is she's left-handed. Which I don't think comes into play like at all, except maybe if there's like something I want to do in like the 600th book down the line or whatever. But you know, she's left-handed.
Interesting.
She has the special ability to harness energy. Her apparel and accessories, because you know she's a woman and we have to describe those. Victorian style dress with similar fabrics like velvet, silk, etc., and a silk cloak only when cold or raining, and a golden crown. Her specialized equipment is a long bow, which is finely decorated, and arrows.
What do you think about the palm trees things I'm trying to do? Like, I've never tried doing them before, so
They're cute.
I don't know if they work or not, but
They're very cute.
they definitely kind of look like palm trees. Usually, you know, I do my forest a different way, but
Yeah, they do. They do look like palm trees. They're very cute, and they look like oasis palm trees. And then you've got the mental characteristics. Her personal history. An important part of the war, Cynthia fought on the behalf of the Elven Kingdom and her parents, the King and Queen of the Kingdom. Before winning the war, her mother was killed in an assassination and her father died of the frostbite, leaving her and her siblings alone. Calithe, having refused to become queen, passed the position on to Cynthia. Education. Archery and close combat training. Literature. She is well read. I got very lazy when I was writing this last part, apparently. Employment, she is the Queen of the Elven Kingdom. Accomplishments and achievements. Won the war against the Frost Elves, 1720 to 1727. Become queen, fending off goblin raids. Failures and embarrassments. She leaves Vespin in charge of the kingdom. That is certainly a failure. That is a bad idea. Mental trauma. Parents' deaths in the Great Elven War, of course. Intellectual characteristics is she's logical, whimsical, and literate. Morality and philosophy, she's religious. She's got a religious morality. Believes her religion shows the rights and wrongs. You know, as was common back then. Taboos, physical alteration, tattoos, implants, etc., adultery, cannibalism, murder, rape, and other general taboos. Personality characteristics. Her motivation is to protect her family and her kingdom. Her savvies and ineptitudes are great, competent, artistic, but has terrible handwriting. Her likes and she's a doctor. Her likes and dislikes. So she loves rain, enjoys reading and drawing, enjoys combat training, but dislikes arguments and sunny weather and heathens. Nice. Virtues and personality perks. She's patient, strong-willed, and intellectual. Her vices and personality flaws are she's naive, kind of bigoted, and dyslexic. Her hygiene is everything is always immaculately clean. Then social, contacts and relations. She's got Calithe, Vespin, Quinn, her friend, and Silas the advisor, who is my personal favourite character. Not that I'm supposed to have opinions, but
so you're not allowed to have a favorite. You're the writer.
Family ties, obviously, Calithe and Vespin. Religious views, she's very religious, subscribes to the religion of the elves. Social aptitude is she's confident and authoritative in front of crowds, extroverted and charismatic. Her mannerisms often walks while she talks, pacing or gestures with her hands to make her point. Speech, she often uses more formal language. Wealth and financial state, she's incredibly wealthy aristocrat. She has no need to save. Duh, she's literally the queen. And then in her little thing it says alignment, lawful good, current location, King Oak Hollow. Honorary and occupational titles, Queen of the Elven Kingdom. Year of birth, 1696, she is 40 years old. Circumstances of birth, her parents, King and Queen of the Elven Kingdoms. She is the third and last child to them. The birthplace is King Oak Hollow, current residence King Oak Hollow, biological sex is female, sexuality is straight, gender identity female, eyes dark blue, wide and innocent, hair long braided, crown in between her head, blah 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 blah. Height, actually, I do have her height here. She's not 5 centimeters, she's 3 centimeters. She is 2 centimeters shorter. She is very small.
She sounds like Tinkerbell size.
She's actually smaller than Tinkerbell size. If you like compare it to your face, she's about a centimeter shorter than Tinkerbell. She weighs 1 gram, and her known languages are Elven, Goblin, Infernal, Frost, Drow, Dark, and Draconic. And character prototype, which means like who would play her in the movie, is Mary Elizabeth Winstead, of course, the chick who played what's her face in Scott Pilgrim.
I don't know.
The main girl that Scott is like, OMG, I have to the one with the roller skates.
Oh, yeah, I forget her name in that show, and I was just watching it tonight.
That's annoying me.
Ramona Flowers.
Yeah, Ramona Flowers. There we go.
I just watched it tonight. Like, how do I forget? Like, I watched half of Frozen.
Here we go. I have some information on the Frozen/Frostbitten thing. Frozen/Frostbitten. To be frozen or frostbitten is to be attacked by the magic of the frost elves. The condition is usually visible through the victim being paralyzed or their skin becoming paler or bluish. It is similar to the process of zombification, but is completely curable up to a week into the condition, not a month. After a significant amount of time, victims will show similar visible signs to zombies and will usually die within a month. Transmission and vectors. Bitten/cursed by a frost elf. It is not infectious and slows down in heat, but heat does not stop the process altogether. The causes are in the cold, the condition spreads much faster than in lukewarm heat or hot weather. It is caused by magic particles clinging to the blood cells inside the system of the victim, mostly the white ones, making it difficult for the body to heal wounds. Symptoms. At first, the symptoms may include being paralyzed, small wounds and opening at random, drowsiness, and paler/bluish skin. Further in, more sores tend to open up in the skin without closing, similar to the zombification process. The treatment is herbal medicine, usually using ginger root, chervil, and some lavender or garlic for the taste and smell. Sequela. Never actually understood what that word meant. But the mental state will slowly deteriorate over time, will not go crazy, but rather more dull and depressed and unable to gather mental energy. Affected groups are all kinds of people other than the frost elves themselves. Prevention. Vaccines are able to be provided to those who can afford them at a semi-cheap price. Those who can't afford it, though, can usually afford the medicine to cure it after they receive it, although those who can't afford the vaccines are a minority, because they're pretty cheap. History. First recorded date of infection is 1810-1721 during the war. There were thousands of cases of this condition affecting soldiers and other fighters in the Great Elven War. One of those infected happened to be the king of the Elven Kingdom at the time, and he died a month later due to the infection. Cultural reception. Generally, due to the condition not being contagious, victims are cared for like any other sick patient and are not usually avoided socially as they are easily healed. However, it is recommended that no one shares bodily fluids with a victim while they are still experiencing symptoms. Type is magical, the origin is magical, the cycle is short-term, and the rarity is rare. So, yeah, there's that too. Do I have anything else on here? I do. I have the language of the dark. Dark is the language spoken by the dark elves and some, rarely, drow. It is most common character. The most common character/letter is the letter U. Its alphabet is similar to the Russian and English alphabet, and the geographical distribution is generally spoken in the outer reaches of the Darklands and somewhat inland. I could not honestly remember how I pronounce these. Yeah, I'm not even gonna try. I'm not even gonna fucking try. No, I will. Okay. Common phrases include Ulsa Viekia Umpat, which means beware the pale ones. Umani to Urgati, it means you know nothing, because, you know, they're very arrogant, of course. Inka Viekia Umpat means death to the pale ones. They're a little bit racist, but, you know, it's okay. Common female names are Impala, Umilla, Arista, Pilvara, Lena, Ina, and Lani. Common male names are Lenik, Impalo, Umilo, Eurus, Pulvi, Leno, and Enoch. And common unisex names are Infi, Delpha, Enin, and Urian. Here we go. That's all of the info I have on World Builder.
World Anvil,
Hooray.
you mean?
Huh?
World Anvil. Get the set
Oh,
right.
World Anvil. Yeah. Sorry, World Builder is what they call the people who do it on there. And I guess I was reading that word.
Yeah, no. You're fine. Just messing with you.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it so much.
Turn this off. Okay, what do you think so far of your thing? I think that I gotta put more work, I think, into the pine trees. They bother me a bit. I need to study a little bit more. I think the idea is there, but
I can't give you any advice until I see it. Just give the stream a minute to catch up, you know?
well, it's there now.
Oh, you're just showing me the desert?
Yeah.
Oh no, there it is. It's a bit zoomed out. I can't really see all that well. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it looks good.
I can cut it off for you and send it to you so you have an exact there.
That would be useful, yeah.
I just thought.
Oh yeah, that looks good.
I think the idea is pretty good for it, but it's kind of so hard to draw pine in such a small scale. I think.
Pine trees.
Sorry, palm trees. I mean,
palm trees. Yeah.
How many? Like, this is the map zoomed out. Like, how you see how much you can actually see them? Paste. Like, that's a scale which I'm drawing them. Like.
They're very small, but honestly, when people are using the maps, they're gonna zoom in. So.
Oh yeah, I know. Well, the idea is you draw it that big so that you can actually print it out large. You can print it out like a poster. I still think I could do better on those, but it's my first time ever trying palm trees. So, and I even remember I put some coconuts on some of them. It's not too bad, I guess.
Looks pretty good to me.
That's how are the mountains looking. Oh, I gotta work on. Something's gonna go there.
They look like mountains.
Go to like a 4.
Something I did that I thought looked pretty interesting is if you link some of the bottom bits of the mountains up together so that they make kind of like a valley. Nah, I mean.
Well, there's supposed to be a valley. You're not supposed to link them because when mountains come down, they kind of like crisscross. Like these, like one will come down, then one will go down between the two. They like more of a zipper pattern. Most mountains don't link together too much. They usually.
Well, they're not really. It's not really linking together. It's just that the actual bottom of the mountain itself goes further in.
Because like this here is a valley. What I'm trying to show, like right in here, that would be like there's a valley through there.
I think it's easier to see if it's shaded, to be honest.
Yeah, like here's a valley running right through right there. I just did it on the stream as a marker, but let's see here. But they have more detail on them. I also haven't added the color in the background. Let's turn off everything. Go to that color. Let's grab a brown. Give it a nice earthy tone, I guess. Takes a second to fill something this large. Just brown. So you can see the colors a little bit better. Okay, well, either way, I have to go get ready for work, so we're just, I said, it's just going to be a short stream. I did it there. I did a little bit more work on it. We'll get back to this at another time. Once again, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for explaining your world to us, Athena. And I'm going to end the stream right there. With a cough.
I just inhaled my drink.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.